All right, so introduce yourself.
So I'm David Rowland. I'm one of the engineers at Germano Studios, and I've been working here just over 3 years.
What kind of session you've been doing?
I've been doing lots of tracking, mixing, overdubs. Do a lot of guitar, reamping, and stuff like that. People coming in to get that pure sound.
Could you mention this name who was working with?
We've had Azealia Bankston recently, Pharrell Williams as well.
For his new album.
He did some stuff from the Despicable Me stuff here as well.
He was tracking, recording?
A little both. He was doing some writing and vocals at the same time. A lot of those guys just move so fast that, you just kind of try to stay with them, really.
Cool. So how was the impression about the cables?
The oyaide cables are great. I mean, it's kind of one of those things, you don't know what you're missing until you hear it. It's not to say that it's like an MP3 wave kind of difference, but it's one of those, like, when you really finally get to hear something that seems to just be giving you the truest signal, that you're like, that was in the microphone, but I just never heard it before. Which was very inspiring. That you're like, wow, I need to be using this cable more often.
What did you hear? What was big difference for you?
Clarity and that natural air on the very top of the vocals just it helps it really cut through. It seems, and mixes a little bit more. You don't have to do as much surgery EQ. It seems it just gives you a very natural, direct tone
from
the microphone. Exactly. So when you have a great vocalist, great microphone, it's just going to sound great.
So artists like it too?
Artists, they usually won't specifically say, we're using this oyaide cable, this is great today. But where you'll notice it is when they put the headphones on, and they say that first word, and you get that that's when you're like, okay, cool. They notice it.
Wow.
And, it's just one of those. They go up to the microphone and it sounds great, the best that they've heard, then they're happy.
So Pharrell knows about it too?
Exactly. He was, one of those guys that definitely, just getting up to the microphone knows that, that it sounded better,
Cool. How about guitar cables?
Guitar cables are, noise is always one of those big things that, I feel gets in the way of guitars. There's a lot of electric guitars are tough because impedance. There's so many things that are working against you. So again, it's just to have that true signal is going to really help you in any way possible. And the guitar tone, you get a clearer tone because when you go through so many pedals, you're just losing tone. You're losing gain, and you're trying to gain it back up. And using oyaide cables definitely just helps you preserve that tone.
Who was using it?
I mean, most recently it was Keith Richards that does a lot. Cool. He's done a lot of the guitar stuff here. But then also just many other little sessions around here, people just notice that they have better sounding guitars.
Cool.
Did some Hearts session, which is an indie band in Brooklyn, and we did a lot of guitar and even keyboard stuff too. That we used oyaide cables on the keyboards.
Great.
And it sounded very good.
Cool. How about the speaker cables? Any comment?
Speaker cables, we've been using them on all the speakers here at Germano, and definitely even width. I feel like crosstalk or with using older cables, it seemed to just not as open as as they are now, and people definitely have started to notice that, wow, there's something different in the speakers. It just feels better.
Open means sound.
Oh, width and even top too. It feels a little bit higher in the speaker. If you really trying to think of the bass down low and the treble on top, it really does. It just seems like the speaker is even reaching higher now.
Right.
Which is
maybe depth.
Exactly. Definitely the depth. It moves it, pushes things forward and back. And it's preserving the natural music.
Cool.
That it's getting what you put in. It's hoping that when you're turning a knob on the computer that you're hearing it correctly. And I feel that way with these cables.
Cool. So lastly, any comments about the cable?
Comments about the cable? The build quality is out of control. I love it. I mean, it's one of those, even especially on the female side of the mic cable, with just the extra locking mechanism that's on there, really that's not going to get pulled out in any way.
And I'm sure you guys using
We use so many different microphones here, and you know, so, like SM57, sometimes it can be a little tricky. just doesn't lock in on the older mic cables. But this, I mean, it's almost like there's no way you're getting it out without intentionally taking it out, which is huge.
Cool. And also tough, right? Very
Yes, I mean, it's very, very sturdy, very tough.
cool. Great.